how nature operates, which is in cycles, in seasons, ups and flows with minimal interventions, and honoring our external and internal seasons and embrace the change in our body. There are times for everything. Could be a chronic illness. People who have been trying to look for answers of their symptoms, but they could not get a diagnosis. I love the mystery illness because a lot of the time in that journey, we focus so much on the physical. We want to feel better. That's all. But a lot of people didn't realize disease, a lot of this process journey is a rite of passage. It's an initiation.
Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which we're joining this conversation. We pay our respects to elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today.
Hi, welcome to the Water Talks. I'm Danny. I'm speaking to you from Burundurong and Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Today, it's all about health and what actually is health. My guest today is Bonnie Tai. I hope I've got that right, Bonnie. She's worked in hospital pharmacy for 20 years before she went on her own health journey, which is what we're very excited to hear all about. And curious about the inner and outer context that shape a person's health. Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Danny. I'm really excited to be here.
It's really great to have you. And, we're two health practitioners. As you know, I'm an osteopath. And I look at health in a different way. But I really want to start with your background and, your pharmacy background, moving into where you've gone and why you've gone this way. And if you just, expand on that a little to get the party started.
I didn't choose hospital pharmacy. It chose me. So just to give you a bit of my background story, I was born and raised in Hong Kong. And I moved to Brisbane, Australia when I was 14. And obviously, being an immigrant, Chinese, you kind of just, I guess, immerse yourself into this community, learn everything about Australia culture, hang out with the Aussie, learn about what a Barbie is. I didn't know what I would like to do. I guess growing up, I was in a foreign country and I have had family in Australia already, and most of them suggested pharmacy would be a great one for me. And I didn't know what pharmacists do back then, but I thought, okay, the eldest in the family thought this is good. Let's just went for an adventure. And I guess I started to love it because as a child, I've always loved human anatomy. I used to have this really old human anatomy book that my dad gave me. And I was always fascinated about what's happening inside the body, the parts that I couldn't see, but somehow they just work miraculously with each other, that the body can do all the things that it needs to survive and enjoy life. And that's how I went to pharmacy. And obviously, I was working as a pharmacy assistant. I tried out doing some research when I was in uni. And eventually, I decided I want to work on the very front line in the hospital because I want to be in close contact to see life and death in the forefront. I can be directly supporting and helping people. Yeah, so that's kind of a bit of a journey. And I love helping people. I love sitting down with a patient, going through the medication, and listen to their life story. And a lot of the time, you start to understand why they are where they are. because of their background, their culture, their lives, and how they end up being in hospital, and then what they need to get better again.
But you started questioning the model.
That was interesting. I was reflecting on my journey this morning. I think there was a little part of me that was questioning a little bit of the system in that early stage of my pharmacy education and career.
As in the model, the system as a model, or actually the allopathic nature of medicine?
I would say the allopathic nature of medicines, because I remember sitting in a lecture on pharmacology, and we were learning all about all the body system that manage blood pressure. And we also learn about where all the different medications and what pathways they work on. And I remember vividly sitting in the lecture, and there was a particular medication that they use, which is ACE inhibitor. Wonderful medications, a lot of benefits for people with cardiovascular risk. However, they talked about one of the very common side effects is sometimes people might get cough. And it was because partly how the medication works, the receptors they're working. And they found those receptors also in the respiratory tracts. And I remember listening to it go, oh, okay, it's great to have science to find out all these different receptors and pathways that we can target and treat a condition. But those receptors don't just exist in the blood vessel systems. It also exists in other places for other reasons. But because we use the medicines, it has an impact on other organs. And I started to question it because when I was learning pharmacy, we were told that we just have to accept the side effects of medication. And there's a part of me I always go,
interesting.
Do we have to accept it? Or why do we have to then prescribe more medication to manage those side effects? But it was interesting. I didn't question or challenge that beliefs or teaching back then, because I thought, who was I? I was a student in a university, but I was always in that mindset of, I don't understand this. But also, me being a Chinese, I have understanding of traditional Chinese medicines. And I've never really heard anyone talking about side effects when they receive traditional Chinese medication or acupuncture or acupressure, massage or cupping. So I was a little bit confused, but I didn't know how to reconcile as a young clinician.
So you were brought up with traditional Chinese medicine. That's how you were medicated as a child.
No, I was growing up in Hong Kong.
Yes.
So it was a British colony.
Of course.
So there was a belief in our system that the Western medicines are far superior than the traditional medication model. However, I think in the 80s, the older generation still very much using traditional Chinese medicines, or they will self-medicate with herbal concoctions, or they'll cook special herbal soups for wellness.
Yes.
So I was exposed to both, but there was a belief the Western model is superior, and my parents' generations is more trusting the Western model. When there's something sick with a child, they'll go straight to the general practitioner rather than go to Chinese herbalist. But there's still a belief that once you fix, when your problem is fixed, then my mother or grand aunt will cook a lot of soups for you to heal.
Yeah, so I agree. And I remember, when I was introduced to Chinese medicine, the worst side effect was the smell. or the taste of taking them, rather than, the side effects that happen physiologically. And that's probably my nature of being from the UK, and we weren't used to those pungencies. I think the most pungent herb I grew up with, or mineral, or spice, was pepper. So I didn't have all those other interesting herbs that Chinese medicine. Well, there was in Chinese medicine at the time. So, I mean, we're kind of on the same line, because I didn't know about osteopathy, and I got told to go into osteopathy without really knowing much about it either. But I'm now, I've prolonged and expanded my understanding of osteopathy and how the body, maintains function and structure from a more, I don't like to say alternative, but natural perspective. So let's move you further down your chronology. You did pharmacy for 20 years.
Yep.
And then what happened?
So I did pharmacy, and for the first 10 years, I was practicing as a pharmacist on the front line, seeing patients, and then I spent some time in the area of medication safety. So I was like really looking at the whole system. When something goes wrong, or we try to look at the system, so how can we safeguard the system so that people didn't get harmed by medications or medical interventions. So that was really the first half of my journey. And I loved it. Really loved the human side of things. And I also loved the whole system view, looking at system designs and all those. And then the second half of the journey, I became a manager. So I got promoted to be the assistant director of pharmacy at a tertiary hospital with about 500 beds in Brisbane. I guess
Wow.
going from being a clinician to manager is very different roles. All suddenly, you're not just responsible for seeing patient. You're not doing the work that you're very good at doing. Suddenly, you're responsible for everything. The staff, the people, the patients, operations, a lot of the clockwork in the system to enable a service to be run smoothly. So I was plunged into the deep end of the ocean and just try to swim. And I reflect on a lot of the clinicians, of people who get into healthcare. We have very deep empathy. We want to give our all and more to the people around us. I guess I think in that process, I was just really focusing on service to the people around me, to the service that will impact on a lot of people. So I think in the process, I forgot to look after myself. And also that journey got me thinking about, we never really get taught how to look after ourselves. That was a really interesting realization. We just thought your focus is to, you have your food, you eat your meals at certain time of the day, you do certain exercise for a certain amount of time, and then you go to work in this time. That's it. And then you have hobbies, and then you rest and relax. But we rarely get us to contemplate what does self-care means for us as an individual. And
did something happen in your life that shifted you? Did you have a health crisis, or did you become a wounded healer, or did something happen? Because you've gone from being very allopathic and really wanting to treat people physiologically with medication, to a manager who has lost the relationship of the patient, to wanting to now get out of this world and look at the bigger picture. So I'll can share my reason what happened to me, but I'd like to hear from you What happened? What really happened?
What really happened, I think once I get into the working career life,
Yeah.
slowly my journey, I start to have big burnout moments.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so the very first major one was when I was around 26, 27. That was the first time I moved out of home.
Yeah.
I moved to Sydney for work. I didn't really know anyone. And I worked in a very busy hospital in Sydney CBD. I just work. I just focus on working. Didn't know anyone, so I just work and study and study. And eventually my body broke down. So I couldn't sleep. I was having full body pain, tension headache. And for someone who's never really sick with any cold or flu, I was sick with 4 episodes of bronchitis that year
Wow.
in Sydney.
Okay. Wow.
And most significantly, my period stopped. I was so overworked and stressed, probably isolated. That's the very first time I realized, oh, I need community. I need connection. I thought I could survive in the city on my own as long as I work hard in the job. So that was the very first wake-up call. And very interestingly, you know how I talked to you about how my exposure to Chinese medicines at a
Yeah.
very young age. When my period stopped, my first thought is, I'm not going to see GP because I know what they are going to, how they're going to treat me.
Yes.
And this intuition in me that wasn't the way to go. So I actually found myself a traditional Chinese medicine doctor,
What
and I
happened?
received treatment from them.
And what happened? What was that treatment? Was it acupuncture? Was it herbs? Was it?
It was an intensive regimes. There was reflexology, that's acupressure massage,
Yeah.
acupuncture, and daily herbal medications.
For how long?
Oh, I think for 4 months. I was very sick. Even the doctor commented, wow, you're very stressed, you're very sick. And during the treatment, she actually taught me a lot about wellness, about the type of food I can cook for myself to nourish my body. But one thing she did say to me at the end, because she can tell my body's recovering to a point, but not to 100%. And she
Hmm.
actually gently suggests, maybe this is not the place for you to be. Maybe consider going home
Yeah.
to be back to your community where you belong.
How
So
amazing
that
is that, though? How
yeah,
amazing that a practitioner says that.
yeah,
I mean, a GP would not have said that. It has to be someone who really can understand how the body works and to go actually fit you as a being
mm,
energetically, if we want to use that term,
yep,
shouldn't be in this melting pot. You need to be somewhere else.
yeah. So I took her advice. So I resigned from my
Amazing.
job, moved back to Brisbane,
Remarkable.
and I went from one extreme to another because I got so sick at that
Yeah.
time. And as a young person, I went all the way into the wellness culture. I signed myself up in the gym with a personal trainer. I changed my diet, eating all the clean stuff like salad, smoothie, protein shakes.
Oh dear.
Just sweat myself off in the gym 5 to 6 days a week, an hour to an hour and a half each. So I went to another extreme.
Yes.
And it didn't go well either.
So you burnt out on the other side as well, in effect.
Yep.
So you
I
were coming
was,
out of a burnout, and you went into another burnout because you just went far too quickly to the other side. And what happened
yep.
then?
It was more the diet that I was taking on, the regimes, is actually still overstressing my body. According to another Chinese doctor said, that's not the food for you, Bonnie. There are other parts of my body start to, not going very well. So my mum dragged me to another traditional Chinese medicines doctor. And she said, no, girl, you need to keep warm. You need to rest. And I didn't really listen. I was trying to
And
fight
warm
it.
food. You had to warm food as well, not all your cold salads and protein shakes. Yeah.
Yep. I thought, well, this is all those body, like personal trainer and all the coaches look so great. So what they're doing must be good for me. And I was like trying to train for like a 5K run. And eventually I injured myself and I couldn't do anything.
Funny that.
So I just keep kind of in that yo-yo, swinging between extremes for some time. But that was before I became a manager. And then I went into become a manager.
Were you still not menstruating then, or you'd started menstruating again?
The initial traditional Chinese medicines treatment healed me, so
it helped. Okay.
everything was healing again. Yeah.
And then you went into a manager. This is then when you went into a manager. So you burnt out before you even hit manager role. Twice.
Yes, that was the first wake-up call. But I guess as a young person, I didn't quite understand because I think we're so disconnected to our body. We just thought, I need to optimize it. I need to, be in the best shape. Or I need to look good. Or I need to look good to others because I'm fit. I go to the gym all the time.
There you go. I need to look good to others.
Yep.
Yeah,
so I think a lot of the things I'm doing is I talk in what the world says is good instead of what feels good inside. And obviously I keep going, become a manager, work, become a focus. And I was tracking on my journey. I started to get sicker and sicker, but it's more the stress level and a mental sphere when I become a manager, because you constantly need to not only managing the issues on hand, you need to think forward, pre-plan, preempt what you may need to do to prepare, especially in the hospital environment. So I think I become very stressed. I get a lot of headaches, but I just take painkillers because that would just keep me going. It's easy fix.
Wow. So when did you have your next burnout then?
There was a few in the first part of my journey. I started to have a bit of awareness, but it wasn't clear enough. I was working myself to a point of exhaustion, and I signed myself up to like a 7-day retreat with no phones, clean eating. Of course, I collapsed in the retreat because I was so hyped up, stimulated, and all of a sudden you took off all your stimulants like caffeine, or mental stimulations, always in this emergency fighting mode. I need to fight all the time. But I have a sense that I was noticing myself getting more and more anxious. I was sleeping, and I'm always getting more reactive to people. And I actually, over time, in moments, I can't control my emotions. Like I don't feel regulated. However, halfway through that journey, about 5-year mark, I was in the first stressful year dealing with some really stressful HR situation with a particular staff member. And that was my second major burnout happened, but it manifests very differently. It started with not sleeping, pain, which was my normal, and you just keep working. Oh, I'm not sleeping, extra time to work, perfect. but actually it manifests into some really severe irritable bowel syndrome. So severe to a point that I couldn't eat much of a solid food.
Oh.
And in the moment when I get to work safe between my apartment to my car, I'll get down, my body is fine, sit in the car, start the car. Within 10 minutes, my stomach will be bloated like a 4 or 5 months pregnant lady. So my body was reacting to the act of going to work.
That's amazing.
And that's when I realized, oh my God, okay. So I went in obviously to the GP, and then she referred me to specialists for a lot of tests. All the blood tests and came back normal. All the scope came back normal. And the specialist just said, I'll just start you on a pill. You'll be fine.
Why didn't you go to the Chinese doctor?
I didn't know why. I just thought
You thought medicine would help this time?
I didn't really know why. I don't know. That time I need the Western method.
Because is that the big thing? Because you've now been sucked into the scientific beliefs pattern of and that's was your model at that time, and Chinese medicine was just a little bit too ethereal to really understand whether it could take on such a specific physiological change in your body.
Yeah, I thought it was just the gut. I just want to focus on
just the gut.
and also I think you're right, because I was trained in a very scientific framework. And I think during that 2010 to 2020 time, that's when the proliferation of evidence-based medicines, everything, there's consensus guideline. This is the best evidence. This is what you do step by step, as you are aware. So I decide, I have this really intolerable issues with the gut. I'll just go to the specialist. But I changed my mind in that time, because the specialist basically started me on a medication, which is one of the antidepressants, which they found very effective for gut issues. As we know, there's a connection between the mind and the gut. I was having some reservation about starting that particular medicine because I know all the side effects and I know what it might do. I don't want it to affect my work performance. But he just go, I have lawyers, truck drivers, nurses taking this medicine. You'll be fine. That's what he said. So I thought, okay, you're a specialist. I'm going to believe you. I took medicine. I didn't feel great for weeks. And I just go, no, I need to wean this off. This is not helping me. It's affecting me. Something in the body that I couldn't even name it. And I went back to the specialist and explained to him, hey, I don't think this is working. So I went, okay, let's try a second antidepressant in the same family. You may feel better. I thought, okay, well, I'll just follow the motion. I don't think he's listening to me, but I'll give it a go. The second antidepressants took it. I nearly crushed my parents in the car with me because of that medication. Wow. And that was the moment I went, okay, I'm not taking any more pharmaceuticals for these issues. Yeah. And then I went down a little path of my own research on the internet and engaging in naturopathic doctors and trying all kinds of different herbal concoctions I could find in chemist warehouse. And trying all the different diets that was like popularized on the internet for IBS. So I went on a bit of a journey, and eventually I actually managed to alleviate my symptoms and went back to baseline.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a similar story where I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and had significant pain, and I went to see the gastroenterologist after a scope, and they said, "This is your levels. You need to go on medication for the rest of your life." And I took it for one day. I can't remember what it was. I took it for one day, and I said to myself, "I'm never going to take this medication again. I have to change my life and my physiology to get my gut well." So I had a chat with a friend who was a naturopath. I literally cut out everything, and 3.5 years later, I don't have Crohn's anymore. And
Wow.
I think it's, and it's like you and your gut too. It's like, it's a combination of what you put in your body. It's a combination of how you treat your body. It's a combination of, what you need to support your body. And it's that continual journey. You can't just take a medicine once and hope it's going to happen. You've actually got to look at how you're going to change the physiology to allow things to change itself. Because we know that physiology takes a long time to change, and we know that physiology is individualized
Yes.
as well, which is the hardest thing. So I have a question that, we, what does it actually mean to listen to our body really in practice, and what is it that, and we know that chronic disease is rising. We know that we have obesity, diabetes. We know we have heart disease. We know we have all
Mm.
these lifestyle choices, and chronic disease is rising everywhere. What is it that the system isn't seeing?
Mm. Great question. I feel like the mainstream conventional medical system is teaching us that the symptoms and disease that we experience are problems and we need to fix it.
Interesting.
Because part of my journey during that particular episode, that's only the second one.
Oh yeah,
I
sorry.
start
Next
That
one.
was another bigger one that's actually lead to where I'm at now. We can talk
Yeah,
about that later.
please.
But that particular burnout I just shared is I realized how disconnected I am with my body. I thought that's a problem. I didn't actually look at it as my body's trying to warn me of something.
I see.
There's something because I was reflecting on it this morning that we were stuck in this whole symptoms and disease cycles.
Let me just stop you there, Bonnie. You're just fate. You're just going a little bit.
Oh, did I? Oh,
Khalid, are you
sorry.
there?
Oh, yeah, yep. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, thanks.
It could be in my end because
Pick
I
up.
accidentally hit one of my tab.
That's okay. That's no. But let me just say, pick up, and we'll start again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up. Pick up.
Okay. Pick up. Okay. So I was thinking really, when we think about symptoms and disease,
Yes.
we we taught is problems. Something's broken in our body. And some things we need to fix it, like a machine, like a car, we need to fix it. But I have a very different view now is all the symptoms, the sensations, and eventually disease is actually the body trying to communicate about there's something, some disharmony or disease between the physical body and its environment, whether it is internal. So that's our own body, mind, and soul. Are these three things actually working in synchrony, or the mind sometimes fighting the body and the body try to get the mind's attention and the mind's ignoring it. Because I realized the mind is a really powerful thing. It can override the body, and the body is very resilient. It will help the mind to do what it needs. But our physical body has boundaries. It can only push so much, and it will reach a point that will tip over homeostasis. So you actually can tip a point if you're not listening to what the body needs. You will get into, where you get actual disease or burnout or anything. But there's another deeper thing that I realize is our body is in constant conversation, dialogue with the environment that we're in. So it's not just the physical environment, our home, the street, but also our family system, social system, education system, money system, healthcare system, and all of those things are in conversation. Even though the very things say healthcare, saying we're here to look after your health, is it actually really the best things for our body? Because I'm reflecting on a lot of, say, what I talked about earlier, about, say, blood pressure medication. Yeah, you take it, it controls blood pressure, but it affects the other part of the body. So the body's telling you this medication, yes, it's fixed one thing, but it's actually causing disharmony in other organs. So yeah, it's a very different worldview. I feel like we need to shift it into treating everything as a problem, but rather looking at what's changing, what's actually causing disharmony inside.
I have a slightly different thought on that. I see the brain as not the controller, but the organizer of the senses that we feel in our body. So it's actually the mind is in every cell of the body, and the brain is just what allows it to be emitted out of our mouth. So we physically, and therefore what we feel and what is that people feel, what we feel and what is felt is also as important because of that relationship. And then that creates the discombobulation of our physiology, because the brain is controlling the insides to cause disease process. So unless we are system sensing, as we have to sense ourselves, like we're talking about, more than we have to think about ourselves, because I think the head and the gut are just controlled by, even the pressure, the 1 kilo of force per inch on our body from gravity, that controls exactly what physiologically and what neurologically is happening to us. So I find it hard to say that a disease process is starts from within, as in it does start with, but the source is actually the system sensing something, and how we can deal with the relationship between the internal ripples and the external ripples, if you know what I mean. So I suppose because I'm an osteopath and I look at the body, the structure and the function of the body, rather than I'm a psychiatrist. But I even still think, when we look at Chinese medicine, we feel the pulse. We look at the tongue. We look at the demeanor. We look at the physical representations, which tells you whether you're damp, you're dry, you're cool, which has associated emotional attributes to it as well. So I suppose it's not it's not what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but what comes first, the body or the structure or the function, and is it interrelated? And I think that's what medicine has problems understanding. And that's why chronic illness is not being understood fully is, yes, it's because lifestyle is a big factor, but it's the integration of lifestyle, which includes mental lifestyle, to understand how it actually affects the body before it actually affects the body. Or the body, the mind, should I say, being the whole being.
It's really interesting what came up when you're talking is really we don't just have one brain, as you know. We have a brain, we have a heart brain, and we have a gut brain. So our body really is an antenna, and all these brain are receiving information from each other and also externally. And I believe what you talk about, what the system's not doing is we're not really thinking in terms of this disease, but what are we sensing? Like you said, is sensing, but we're not taught to listen to our gut, listen to our heart, but we only tell us to treat the mental brain, treat what we see through the five senses only, so top heavy.
Yes.
But really, my own journey is we need to tap into all three brains in the body, which is the head, heart, and hand, all of those. Because all of them provide different information. And one thing that I've learned from my own journey is our body is designed perfectly for our highest potential. So all the parts have their own role to play, and they're here to act in our best interest. Symptoms, discomfort, they are information. Instead of actually fixing it, and what allopathic medicine is suppressing it, removing the signals, removing the symptoms, you're actually removing the message, what the body's trying to tell us, what it needs. And I'm going to take on a little bit back to my journey.
Please
my
do.
biggest awakening was when I was around 38, 39. And I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes through a regular blood test.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I literally broke down in the GP's office. I couldn't believe it because I thought I was living a healthy lifestyle.
Yes, must have been hard.
And the GP, she knew me for a long time. She's been treating me from that gut, burnout all through it. And I was always there for regular checkup, always the blood works perfect. All of a sudden, 1 year, it shifted. But she mentioned your profile didn't fit the typical type 2 diabetes patient. Because I was lean, I was exercising, my diet was in accordance with the dietary guidelines. I was managing my stress. So she couldn't figure out why. So, of course, she referred me to an endocrinologist. And we went down a lot of tests again, including genetic testing. I actually don't have a family history of diabetes at all. So it was a bizarre case. Of course, I was put on medication again in accordance to the guidelines. But really interestingly, again, I suffered from a lot of side effects from pharmaceuticals. It affects a lot of my other body systems that I need to require a lot of other treatment. To a point, I said to myself, enough is enough. And that was the time I was already researching online, finding a lot of medical doctors overseas having success in reversing type 2 diabetes through dietary intervention, which is different from the Australian dietary guidelines. But essentially, they either the very low carb or low carb diet, and using it with intermittent fasting or what they call time limited eating. Basically, you narrow your eating window you eat less carb, but more like, vegetables and proteins and, basically regulating your body's metabolic system. And yeah, I managed to put my diabetes into remission. There's a curveball. It didn't last long. There's something in my body. I was doing the right thing, follow that diet, but then things are shifting again that I could not work out why. And long story short, fast forward to the present moment, I'm needing pharmaceuticals to manage my diabetes. And I'm also seeing regular treatment from a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. And I'm also getting regular treatment from a Reiki energetic healer as well. So, and I still have a lot of time that I have gut issues. So a lot of those health issues that I had in the past that I was managed to recover from, I feel like they're still in my system. And I realize treatment, there's no one size fit all. Just because something works in one moment doesn't mean it works forever, because our body and our environment are always changing. And there's always an element of unseen and unknown inside this wonderful body of ours. So now my approach is into more what you mentioned earlier. I'm more like having a practice, like more meditation practice, a stillness practice to every day I will tap into my body to sense which part needing my attention, and I adjust my diet or treatment accordingly.
And now you're no longer a pharmacist. What are you doing?
I retrained as a health coach last year.
Okay. What does that mean?
But for some reason, I didn't really launch my business or see any client. I was building it, but there was something inside of me go, this is not what you want to do. And also during that time when I was hoping to build this business and launch it, I was experiencing another health milestone as a middle-aged woman, perimenopause. And I was experiencing very significant brain fog that I couldn't really think or work. For someone who's relying on her mind a lot, brain fog and confusion was impactful.
I think we just need to highlight that, because a lot of women don't understand that it is perimenopause and it is important when they're not. I see a lot of patients, a lot of women perimenopausal who start complaining about aching, generic aching, brain fog, confusion, all these different things, and not really sure, and they blame themselves. And I think we just need to highlight that it's really important to go to the doctor to get checked. If any of you feel any of this, even if it's just achy joints all over the body, because there's nothing wrong with you. It's just physiological change that needs to be addressed,
It is. This is because I'm going through it at the moment. So I took a special interest in the conversation in this space. One, perimenopause could happen anytime from mid-30s and it could last for over a decade.
Yeah.
And we would talk about it again. As you know, women's health research is a lot less than men's. So we don't have a lot of data, but hopefully now the conversation is shifting. We're hoping we get more science and scientific research in that space. But really is that what we experience women, very regular cycle when we were young, it's now shifting. And a lot of the hormones that's responsible for procreation it start to reduce because we're entering another milestone in our womanhood. But I think the language a lot of people get confused, like you said, is what is menopause, what's perimenopause. Because menopause is just that one day. It's basically your last period, counting down to 12 months. That day is menopause. But there's a lot happened before. And because of that change of those hormones, and all those hormones have a lot of effects on different body organs. That's why no one woman's experience the same thing. For me, it's brain fog. For some women's, a lot of my friends have joint pains, frozen shoulders. A lot of them obviously experience very rapid weight gain as well.
So you talked about health. You were doing a health coach, and then you didn't. What?
Yeah, I was in that space, and I think my own perimenopausal experience really forced me into resting. And actually, it in that moment while I was taking a rest, really let all the business. Because one thing I want to point out is I think we're designed to always go, go, go. You know, if you're not working, you're not productive, and you're not successful. And
people of action. Yeah, it's all about people of action.
People go, what do you do? And do I just go, oh, I'm lying down on the couch resting? So you always have to find something to do. So I told health coaching was that's one thing that makes sense. I'm going to do this. I've got all these experiences. It's still something I want to do. But actually the moment of me in conversation with my body actually led me onto a different direction, how I want to build my business. So at the moment, I'm in the process of redesigning and rebuilding my business in the way that is offering health coaching different from what the traditional model is offering.
What does that mean? Different? Come on. Give us a little peek.
I really want to support people who receive a significant diagnosis, could be a chronic illness, or people who have been trying to look for answers of their symptoms, but they could not get a diagnosis. A lot of the mystery illness, because a lot of the time in that journey, we focus so much on the physical. We want to feel better. That's all. But a lot of people didn't realize disease, a lot of this process journey is a rite of passage. It's an initiation.
Oh, that's deep.
It's actually initiate into very similar to your journey as receiving a diagnosis of Crohn's, and me with diabetes is to go, actually, the disease is asking me to change how I live my life completely. For me, I reach a point, I've actually I actually quit consumptions of ultra-processed food. I actually choose movement that is suitable and feel good in my body, not just the medical expert recommends. It really forced me to adapt and adopt a very different lifestyle to what the mainstream society is functioning. So I really want to hold space for people who are feeling really, I guess sometimes it could be frustrated, could be lost or confused, all of a sudden facing a lot of physical discomfort, a lot of uncertainty of their life, and a lot of the emotional roller coaster. And sometimes the other thing I want to help these people is to navigate the healthcare system. I've worked through the healthcare system for 20 years, not just in the hospital, because we have to work with community providers. And I myself have been a patient. I've been carers to my late fathers who had cancer. And I also work in the consultancy who did consulting projects for healthcare organizations. So I work through all aspects of it and I see what the needs are. So I really want to help people to be able to navigate that complexity and fragmentation in the system. And the last thing is to really help people build confidence to advocate for themselves in the doctor's office. Because I, as a pharmacist, have had challenges to advocate for my own needs in the doctor's office when the specialist said, this is the best for you. And I just accept the recommendations. But over time now, I've just learned how to be prepared to walk into a doctor's office with agendas, with questions, with data, and actually decide what is best for me with their support. And I make the final decision.
So let's take it away from the individual. So let's take it away from you with diabetes and me with Crohn's. What does a genuinely healthy society look like to you?
Healthy.
Or if that is the right word, even.
So interesting. That's a question.
That is a question. Yes. Oh.
So, I've been sitting with this question for a long time. And I've been sitting with a question, what does self-care looks like in a modern society? Let me share with you something that I've been sitting with for some time. So do you know about the Blue Zones project?
I do.
Yep.
I do.
So obviously, when you look at the Blue Zones, they have a lot of elders, communities of elders who lived beyond 100 years old. And I was watching it. I was like, wow, yeah, they look old, but they also look very alive, vibrant, even though they're wrinkly skin, sunburned skin, hunchback, they walk slowly. But there's a sense of aliveness. They cook the meals together. They still go work in their gardens. They walk to their church. And I went, wow, that must be what true health looks like. But then recently I found myself being really fascinated by Brian Johnson, the billionaire who's obsessed with longevity. In his world, his version of true health is to optimize everything to perfection and precision. And he lives every day with everything protocolized. I'll wake up at this time, I'll have this red light therapy, and I'll take all of these supplements. I'll have these meals with all the micro counts, etc. And he'll do a lot of blood tests. And I look at him from my perspective, even though he was sharing, I have a biological age of 20 years old, and he's currently about mid-40s. But when I look at him, I didn't see health.
Yeah, aliveness.
He looks almost like really pale, translucent, otherworldly to me. But again, a lot of people believe that is true health. So I was actually really thinking about, okay, what is a truly healthy society looks like when there's two versions, people, what they believe in. And I believe, this is my personal belief, is we go back to nature for answers. How nature operates, which is in cycles, in seasons, ups and flows, with minimal interventions. And honoring our external and internal seasons. And embrace the change in our body. There are times for everything. When you're young, you have fun, you dance, you sing, you work hard, and you create families. But when you're old, you become an elders, and you look after community, gathers everyone together. share wisdom instead of really plan, control, optimize everything to the decimal point. That would be my approach, and I'm sure a lot of the transhumanists would be disagreeing with me now.
But we don't all have billions of dollars, you know. And I think, as we well know, we came from the earth and we're going back to the earth, so we must be part of the earth. And as we know that the earth changes with seasons, we know that they change when there's disruption. Rivers meander when something gets in the way, and I think that's a great. I think that's a great concept to finish on. That wisdom is really important. Wisdom not just of the self, but of the ecosystem that we live in, and the wisdom of actually noticing what's going on within us and how and what we need, thinking of head, heart, and body, to really understand how we can be healthy ourselves without necessarily the need for medication. Medication is important. No one is saying it isn't important. It's incredibly important when there's significant pathologies happening in the body. We're not saying that. We're saying that, we're looking at how most people can live a healthy society is by following the wisdom that they see and feel and have around them to be able to create the best society, or the best healthy society for everyone else as well as themselves.
I really love what you just said. And wisdom, one of the key to healthy society is having wisdom shared with each other. I think one of the reasons, reflecting on our personal health journey, is I do not have actual elders, a community of elders, to share what happens to their body and what they did to remedy themselves back to wellness. If we actually willing to talk more about it instead of outsourcing that wisdom to medical expert, external expert who holds the key to health wellness, I think we already healthier society, because by sharing our experience, you heal together. Because you're sharing your different experience, you're sharing your different methods, and you experiment together, and you hold each other in that space and look after each other in that space.
I mean, yeah, I think, Dan Buettner says that very well in the Blue Zones, which we'll put in the show notes. But it's everything you said and more. And I just want to thank you. I've had a wonderful conversation, Bonnie. It's been a wonderful, and I just want to leave the listeners with the concept of finding aliveness within themselves, to allow them to notice one thing in their bodies that is trying to tell them something, and how more alive they can be. Thank you, Bonnie. It's been wonderful speaking to you. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.